Welcome to the Elevate podcast. We cover everything from missions, where you'll hear from seasoned missionaries and trailblazers on the field, to church production insights, covering topics like sound mixing, social media, and websites, to church planting, where you'll hear from church planting leaders and boots on the ground, to church systems and strategies, diving into programs like Planning Center and MailChimp. Let's grow and learn together.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're doing another interview. So last month we talked with Randy Freeman about church planting, which was super insightful. But this month I'm super excited to be talking to my friend Adam Fogleman. And Adam is a missionary with Assemblies of God, and him and his wife Alecia have served in Tanzania. They've served in South Africa. They're about to start a super exciting project in Nambia that we're going to talk a little bit about today. And he is also has been a part of the Urban Tribes project that we also talked with Randy about last month, which is just an initiative under Assemblies of God to plant churches in gateway cities in Africa, which is super cool, exciting project. So Adam has served on pastoral staff in that, and they're going to be doing their very own church plant soon. Again, We're going to talk about that. So, hey, Adam.
Hey, Esther. It's so good to be with you and be on your podcast.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to you. Obviously, well, not obviously, but me and Adam and Alecia all served together in South Africa with Randy. So, Yes, I am definitely leveraging all of my friendships for these interviews. So,
well, we're some of your biggest fans, so just so you know.
Yeah, well, I'm you guys' biggest fan. You guys are like the cool people, like with all your coffee stuff and kids ministry, super amazing kids people. Like, you guys are awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I would just love for you to tell us just kind of how your story about how your family got into missions in the first place.
Yeah. So typically when I'm asked about my calling to missions, it's been I always say it was a progressive call. So it wasn't one of those things that I felt like God, I heard a voice from heaven or angels speaking or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that when I was on staff at a church here in the States, we took kids on mission trips. We gave to missions organizations and the Assemblies of God. We have Speed the Light, and then my wife, as a children's pastor, she did BGMC, and so we always gave to those projects and supported missionaries that way.
Yeah.
And then we started to give personally to missionaries, and support missionaries personally. And then from there, we took kids on mission trips to Mexico. We went to Honduras. We did stateside mission trips with organizations. We went to Tanzania a couple times, and just through that process of just falling in love with missions and what God is doing worldwide. We just started to feel that tug a little bit, and we were in a transition season in our ministry and our life. Where I was stepping out of youth ministry. I don't know if I aged out or what happened. But like so many people, it's like, all right, this season of life and ministry is over. So what's next for us? And during that season, it was about 6 months just wrestling with, hey, I always thought maybe I could go teach youth ministry, something like that. Had a couple interviews and nothing opened up. And I during that time, I read the entire Bible from cover to cover in I want to say it was about 6 weeks. I was just, or listened to it. I can't say I read all of it. As I drove, I listened to it audibly as well.
Yeah.
That counts if you're an Audible learner. So I did that. And during that time, God just really started to speak to me. And we all know the passages about missions. Hey, go into all the world to make disciples, right? That hallmark command of Jesus. And I was like, you know what? He doesn't give any qualifications on who to go. He just says to go. So through prayer times and just different things, we said, all right, maybe we should go. What does that look like? So started to really pray about that, lean towards that. We had a couple confirmations, people speaking into our lives. And through that, we just said, all right, we'll do it. And so we went to Tanzania for our first term. And we picked that because we had been there a couple times and we were, as comfortable there in Africa. And because we had a tiny bit of experience, 2-week trips,
Yeah.
we thought we were experts in on Tanzania.
Yeah.
So that's why we picked Tanzania.
Yeah.
Cool. And at the time there was a need there that we thought we could fill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think the process was? Because obviously you guys had your daughters, Emma and Sydney. So I know like for a lot of people that is a big factor in deciding like whether to just really go all in with missions or not, like having kids. Like, how do you think that was like part of the equation of you guys?
Yeah. So for us, and I grew up in the military, so it's a little different than me than somebody that has always lived with their family in the same town for generations. That was never my family dynamic, So for me to visit family, typically it was always a trap. We had to travel to see them, or they traveled to see us. So I know some people wrestle with that. Well, what about parents and grandparents seeing grandkids? And it's a struggle, and it's real. I understand that, but for me that wasn't an issue because I didn't live that life. My wife, of course, being the mother, Alecia, she struggled. Hey, what's going to happen to my kids? They're not going to have a normal, a normal childhood experience, or And so my daughters, when we first became missionaries, it was 10 years ago. So my daughters were they were 8 and 5 when we got approved to become missionaries. And then they ended up, when we left, after we finished fundraising, when we left, they were 6 and 9. It's kind of where they were. So there was that, hey, is it going to be dangerous? What are we going to do? And really, Alecia wrestled with that. And it came back to that whole idea. She was in prayer time or talking, and they were like, hey, can we trust God with our kids? We, at one time, we went through I'm going to say ritual, the service where you dedicate your kids. And it was a challenge to her of, do you really believe that? And did you really mean that when you said, God, I'm giving you my kids and we trust you. We're going to do our best to raise them in a godly manner. And it was one of those, did you really mean that? And so Alicia's like, all right, God, I get it. You trust, honestly, God cares more about our kids than we care about our kids, right? For those that have kids, because he loves them infinitely. And there's times where, let's be honest, as a dad, I might not love my kids infinitely.
What?
I know, shocking. Spoiler alert. But, so it's that wrestle, and we trusted God. And honestly, especially in today's world, we feel like it was the best decision ever. The experience that they've had, them seeing the things, and not just places and countries and things like safaris, but they're better people because of it. They've seen things and done things that most kids their age have never seen or done. And, we homeschooled during those seasons, and it's been really good for them, that as well.
Obviously you guys, I think there's a lot of people, well, it's really varied, but there's a lot of people that jump into missions like right off the bat, really young, really early. And then I think when you pivot after, already having kind of like a lifestyle and certain, things that your family is used to and all that, it can be really challenging. Like, what do you think was the most challenging thing about like that very first like itineration, like fundraising season, and like just transitioning into being missionaries?
I think for me, and it was different because my wife, while our first itineration, she worked the entire itineration still. So she was a teacher. She was teaching 4th grade at the time, and my kids were still involved in school, public school. So her life was probably a little more normal, I would say. And that being said, she was traveling with me more on the weekends than she does now even. And probably more than she should have. There was times we would get in at 2 a.m. And she would get up and her and the girls would go to school the next day. Which, honestly probably wasn't the wisest, but there's this pressure with some churches and some people, hey, we want to see your whole family, which I understand and I get. And our desires, we would love to do that, but we have to balance what's best for my family.
Yes.
Challenges for me as we said, I was in ministry in our district, our network area for about 15 years before we became missionaries.
Wow.
So we had a lot of contacts. My wife grew up in ministry. So we had a lot of just connections already. So that wasn't a challenge. I think some of the disappointment of, hey, I thought that person was going to support me. It's one of those realizations we all have to go through. Is that the people we think might support us might not, and those that don't, God does things, and you have connections out of the blue. That God does. And even still today, that's still a challenge, right? That we're in our third fundraising cycle, and people that were like, man, you guys said you were for us, you were with us, and you gave for like 3 weeks, or whatever it was. And situations change, life's changed, so you just go about it. But I think that realization that number one, I mean, as talented as I am at different things, there's a spirituality to fundraising that I think we forget sometimes. And I'm all about, I do a lot of coffee meetings. I don't do as many phone calls as I did back then because it's not as fruitful maybe. I do some, but there's a spirituality that we ignore that, my gifts and ability, my speaking ability, wherever that's at, is not my source. My source is Jesus. And he's the one that called me. He's the one that's equipped me. And he's the one that's really going to raise the funds. And like I said, I'll work hard. I'll have conversations. But it's really relying on him in this process. I think last month I had 22 meetings through the month, whether it was coffee meetings and then services on top of that. So I travel all over the place, across the world, or across the U.S. If I'm in a city, an area, I try to see if I have any connections whatsoever in that city. And try to meet up with people to share what God is doing. But I think that challenge of relying on myself versus allowing God to do it, I think that's a massive thing that we have to do. And then the second thing is, I'm not a pushy person for the most part. So it's doing the ask. That hard ask. I'm more of a, hey, if you want to do this, I would love to have you part of our team type of guy. But it's, hey, look, this is what we're doing. Can you be, asking the hard ask, I think, is also probably been one of my challenges over the years.
I think that was challenging for me too when I fundraised. Like, I think it's weird talking about money with people. Like, it can be really weird. But then, like you said, it's just, you have to just have that 100% confidence in God. Like, okay, if this is someone that God wants me to partner with, like, it's going to happen. Like, it is hard to not like fall in the ditch on one side or the other of like trying to make it happen, or just being like, God's just going to bring it in. Like, so that's really good. Just trusting in God. So I know you said that you guys did a lot of stuff as a family when you first started. Do you feel like now it's changed, and like, how have you kind of just found like a rhythm in how you do fundraising and missions?
No, it has changed, and part of it's because our family dynamics have changed, right? Now we have a daughter that doesn't live at home. So, when she's home, she actually enjoys traveling with me. And she's like, I want to go with you, Dad. So this summer, or when she was home from college, university, it was very much a, Dad, let's go. And she was with me. She actually, there was one church, they did more of an interview style, and it was just her and I. And they put her up on stage and interviewed her. They interviewed me and asked questions. And it was one of those really cool moments, experiences. To hear my daughter talk about what it was like. Because, they both have lived, Emma more than Sydney. Sydney's our oldest. they lived in Africa for 7 years. My youngest is 15 now. So
Yeah.
almost just about half her life, she's
Wow.
lived in Africa. And what she remembers of life is more Africa than America.
Yeah.
So it was cool to hear that. Emma, again, she's a 15-year-old sophomore in high school. So she might not be as gung-ho about going to new people. She's more introverted as well. That's part of who she is. She's a super creative kid, but that drains her. And she's also going to school this year while we're home fundraising. And she's busy at school. She does one-act play and cheerleading and art and all this stuff. And because of her personality, for her to then go out on the weekends and meet new people, she doesn't have that bandwidth right now. And as much as I want them to go, as much as I would love to have her and my wife with me on the road when I'm traveling on the weekends, the healthy thing is, all right, this isn't best for her. And I have to remember that. Because it's lonely, when I'm driving 2-3 hours on a Sunday morning to have a service and then drive 2-3 hours back and things like that. It's hard. But this is a season, and we got to look at it as, this is a year of our life, and I would rather her be healthy. And I think most churches would too. And when you explain, hey, you know what, my daughter has one-act play on Saturday, so she can't come with me. My daughter has to be up and her and my wife leave to go to school at 6:20 in the morning during the week on Monday morning, so they can't stay out on a Sunday night with me. And most pastors understand that now. And so it's just a season that we have to, all right, what's the best thing for our family, the healthiest thing for our family? And look at it that way. And for that right now, that means I'm traveling by myself. But it is what it is. Like I said, it's a season.
I think something that I loved seeing in your family, like in the time that I spent with you guys, is you guys allowed your kids to and emphasize like your kids having things outside of being missionary kids that they like pursued and like enjoyed. And you guys too, like as individuals, like it wasn't just like you're like, that is your life. It is your whole life when you're on the field. But at the same time, like you're still an individual. Like, how do you think like emphasizing that as a family has been like helpful and like just important to you guys?
And I think that's one of the dynamics of us, and one reason why we moved to South Africa is because in Tanzania we homeschooled, and I traveled a lot in Tanzania by myself. So I would be gone. There was a year I was gone 2 or 3 weeks out of the month on average, just traveling, ministering, doing stuff. Lots of meetings, teaching in Bible colleges away from where we lived. And I had the car. So when I was gone, my family was stuck at home. And that was a difficult season for them. And for my wife, because she had left having up being a professional. And she did ministry there. She taught in the Bible school some and trained children's workers. But we went from, having normal life to they were stuck at home. I mean, literally at home for 2 weeks at a time. And one reason why we moved to South Africa is we wanted to be able to, there was a couple reasons, do ministry as a family, be a part of a team. And we wanted to be in a city, honestly, because we were more in the rural bush setting in Tanzania. And because of that, it opened up doors where my daughters could pursue some of their passions like art. My oldest, she did baking. She took some cooking classes and stuff like that at that time. And then we went online with some of that as the world shifted to everything being online, where he was doing calligraphy and things like that. And it just really helped. So spiritually speaking, there's multiple facets of who we are as a person, right? A lot of times we look at different personality tests and you see different things that that this is who you are, introvert, extrovert, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs,
Yeah.
all those type of things. And different, we typically focus on here's what we enjoy. So we feed that side of us physically, emotionally, spirituality. Maybe you like to read, so you can read the scripture more than some. Some people are prayer. Some people are, hey, I like to go outside, and that's where I feel connected to God, that type of thing out in nature. The truth is, even though those are our stronger areas, we all have areas in our life that, if we're not careful, we starve those because maybe we don't enjoy those as much. So even though you might not like to be outside, there's parts of your personality that maybe not as strong, but it's still there, that God can speak and use to you. So as you go about your life and go about what you do, it's important to feed all those areas. And part of that is, you pursue those passions, you look at the gifts, but sometimes we don't do things because they challenge us. For instance, I can't paint. I can't draw. Those aren't my gifts. Now I try every once in a while and it still doesn't work, but my sisters are great artists. My daughter is an amazing artist. And I always wonder, it's like, man, God, what about me? Those aren't my deal. But I picked up a camera at some time and I fell in love with photography. And not that I'm the next Ansel Adams or anything like that, or whoever, but that gave me an opportunity to push and have a creative outlet that I never had before. In places like Durban, amazing scenery, amazing group of photographers that I was able to connect with. And got me outside of, because we were doing church plant and church ministry and those type of things. It got me outside the four walls of our church. So, during the summertime, this, Esther, the sun comes up at like 4:30 in the morning, which is ridiculously early. But because of photography, I would be up at 3:30 and I was meeting photographers on the beach. And there was a group of us, hey, let's meet at 4:00 on this beach in this area of the city, and let's do some photography. And it got me outside of the church, which was a big deal to me, and gave me a way to feed a creative outlet that I enjoyed, and turned out that I might be okay at.
You're more than okay at photography. You can be humble about it, but I'll give a plug. You're great at photography.
Well, thank you.
I think that's super important. Like, just the idea of like not doing ministry with an agenda necessarily, but like that we can show the love of Jesus and be connecting with people, like even through things that are fun to us. Like, it doesn't always have to be like this idea of work. Like, and that was something that we all had so much space to do in South Africa. Like, you did photography and you did coffee cuppings, and like, my roommate did dance classes and I did orchestra, and like all these opportunities that we had to like connect with people that I think are super important. And like, we were connecting over things that we are personally passionate about, that really important.
No, I think it's key. And you might not do that with the agenda of, hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to win 10 photographers for Jesus, or my orchestra for Jesus. Ultimately, we want to share our faith and we'll talk about Jesus. But as you travel, and if you live a life with, hey, God, I'm just open, use me today, however you see fit. Let me follow the leading of your Holy Spirit and the agenda you have for me. God opens up doors in those things that we're passionate about. And you're able to have conversations with people that you would never meet or have conversations with. And I think that's what ministry really is about. That's what life's really about, whether you're a missionary in Africa or you're a believer here in America. It's pursuing God on that daily basis and saying, God, here am I, use me. And when we do, he'll use us if we let him, right? And you'll have conversations with people of different faith backgrounds, people with different thoughts and stuff. And you just, hey, God, use me today and let me follow your leading and see what he does.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. It's really cool. So on that topic of doing things we're passionate about and missions, tell me about what you guys are doing in Namibia.
Yeah. So Namibia, we can't get your typical work visa or life ministry missionary visas.
Yeah.
So in Tanzania, in fact, the funny thing is I didn't start drinking coffee until about 15 years ago. So most of my life, I've never drank coffee, never enjoyed coffee.
Yeah.
Started to drink coffee and became missionary in Tanzania. And we have coffee trees in our yard where we lived. I would go to the local coffee farm to buy my coffee and stuff like that. So it became something that I enjoyed and something I started to learn about. I had friends in the coffee industry that were exporters of coffee.
Wow.
And just kind of built that. Fast forward to South Africa, where I started to get more into what's called specialty coffee, which is a different level than Starbucks and your typical Folgers or whatever most people drink. To building relationships with coffee professionals, and like you said, hosting coffee cuppings and tasting coffees and those type of things. To hey, we got to get a visa to get into this country it's a closed country once you get in, but you can't get a visa to go live there as an American easily. So we're going to actually start a coffee shop to get business visas, and then use that space. Number one, a coffee, as we know, it's that third space in most people's lives of coffee shops, especially in America, but in most middle to upper class. And I've even read articles in townships in South Africa where it's become a place of community building. So we'll use that platform to get our visa, and then use that space to build community in an area we don't know anybody virtually, to build relationships, meet people, and then eventually launch a church. And we'll start Bible studies there, and it'll be a space that we can come together, office out of, and like I said, meet the community and launch a new church or multiple churches. Our goal is not to plant a church, but multiple churches across the city of Windhoek, Namibia.
Yeah. So first of all, super cool. I'm like super, super excited for you guys to do this. I think it's an amazing idea. So what about Windhoek made you guys kind of land on that as a city to plant a church in?
Yeah, for me, a big thing that I believe as God calls us and leads us is where's the need. There we can do a lot of things. Any one of us, there's avenues and areas that we can do, but where's a big need, and we're going to pray about and see what God opens up and leads. But part of that for us was there's a need for people. We haven't had missionaries in Namibia in, oh goodness, it's been 6 years since we've had any missionaries that live there. So there's this need to do that. The national church is struggling. We have one of our churches in Namibia, our sister denomination churches. And at one time this church has been as large as 400 people and is now down to, I think, 6 or 7 people last I heard.
Wow.
So there's just massive need of having a good, strong, spirit-filled, healthy church there. And then for us urban tribes, we want to reach the influencers of a city. So, one of the things we've had to define and look at is this city what we term a gateway city. So, full of global influencers in Africa and across the world. And as we started to, Windhoek is the capital, so it has a government seat. It's a business center. It has all the universities in the country in it.
Wow.
So that it's kind of this dynamic, all the artists, all the, just those that shape and influence cultures are represented in the city. So we think that this is a dynamic place that maybe it's not on the map for most people. I had one person, say, hey, I think I've heard of Namibia. Was that in a movie once? And it turns out they're talking about Naboo out of Star Wars. So it's one of those places most people haven't heard of.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not a place of influence or a place that we can make a difference.
Yeah, I think that there is this part of Africa that is so modern and thriving and artistic and just really cool that like us in America are completely unaware of.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that there is this project that is like meeting those people where they're at and just kind of like this new era in like missions and new era and tree planting. It's like super exciting. Yeah.
No, it is. I mean, we're really jazzed about being able to go there.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful city. It's interesting. Namibia, it was actually settled by the Germans, so it's a land of desert. Honestly, it's both the eastern side and the western side are desert countries or desert areas. So it's the Nambia and the Kalahari deserts kind of hem this country in. And it was settled by the Germans. So there's all this German architect, like Bavarian architect, German restaurants, different, I'm sure Oktoberfest is going massively right now in Namibia. But it's this cool space of kind of clash of cultures and different things that are there that we're able to see and prayerfully redeem spiritually.
Yeah. Yes. Cool. Yeah. I'm just super excited for you guys. And I said this before, but me and Wesley are going to have to come visit your coffee shop.
You will.
Yeah. So how can people partner with you? How can people give to you guys? Like, just tell us how to help.
Yeah. The easiest way, we have a website that I think you actually helped design most of, Esther. So,
yeah, I did.
So go to followingthefoglemans.org. That would be you can find all the links. You can find out about us, what we're doing.
Yeah.
There's video, there's different things, but there's also a link to partner and give.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the easiest way to do it. You can find us on social media, Instagram, Facebook groups, all that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, both personally, the ministry, and then Instagram for me, also photography.
Yeah.
So it's weird because I have so many different Instagram. I don't do well at updating all of them, but I try.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, for anyone that is watching this that is not already giving and partnering with the Foglemans, like from working with them, they are incredible people and ministers and missionaries, and they just like love and meet the community around them where they're at like so well. And I'm super excited for them. So please partner with them and give to them and pray for them and all of those things and share their stuff. Yeah. So thanks for sitting and talking with me about missions. It was really fun.
No, it's always a joy to connect with you.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll have to do another one when you guys are there and launched, and just you'll have to update us on everything that's happening there. So
no, that would be fun. So let's plan on it, and maybe we can do live. Like one of my things I've actually considered doing, like a podcast studio type thing. So maybe when you come to our coffee shop, we can do a live, like on location podcast.
Yes, that would be awesome.
That would be cool. Fun. So
alrighty. Well, have an awesome day.
You too. And thanks for having me and let me be a part of what you're doing now. I'm excited for you and Wesley both. So
yeah, definitely. Alrighty. See you, Adam.
All right. Blessings, Esther.